Happy Saturday, fam. This is Robert Boyd coming at you with another book review. This time, another really old one. This is the catalog for the core program 2010-2011, which I'm pretty sure I've had since 2011. And I've looked at it, but I decided to sit down and read it from cover to cover, and read all the essays in it, which I hadn't done. As an accompaniment, I'm drinking a cocktail as usual, and this time it is a very skinny girl margarita. It's tequila on the rocks. Anyway, the core program. The core program is a program administered by the Museum of Fine Arts in Houston. It's a residency, and what makes it really good is that it's a 2-year residency. I mean, there are other things that make it good, but the 2-year part means that the artists come into town, and they're in town for long. They're in town long enough to meet the artistic community, and because of that, some of them end up staying. Some of the best artists in Houston are alumni of the core program, including some from this particular year. So in this year, the artists are in this 2-year period. The artists were Nick Barbie, Lourdes Correa Carlo, Fatima Hyder, Stephanie Jemison, Gabrielle Martinez, Julianne Nagel, Kelly Sears, Clarissa Tossin, and then in the critical studies residency, Masa Limu, Melissa Rogaine, Julie Thompson, and Wendy Vogel. Wendy was already in Houston when she entered the core program. I think she worked for Diverse Works, a local nonprofit art space, alternative art space, and so she was kind of a natural fit. But the rest of them came from other places, and that's typical. The core program spreads its net wide and brings people in from all over the world, and that enriches Houston's art scene a lot while they're in town. Now, I'm going to show you some pictures as we go along, because otherwise it'll just be me talking in front of my bookshelves, and I don't know, maybe for me that's fun, but for you that might be boring. But the pictures are of the exhibit in 2011, and I think it was in March, that they have every year for the core residents, and I wrote a review of it, and I'll provide a link to that review. And I'm just gonna talk about some of the artists in the core program. Kelly Sears is a animator and video artist, and I loved her videos. They were mysterious. They kind of had a faux documentary quality to them, although they were animated, and they were animated out of found images. And they had kind of a mysterious, almost a horror movie vibe. But what they weren't horror movies per se, but they were like critical of ordinary mainstream society. And in a amusing and sly way, which I really liked. Nick Barbie's work when he was at the core, I found mystifying. But he subsequently moved to Galveston, so that's effectively part of Houston. But I'm sure people in Galveston would slit my throat if they heard me say that. With his wife Sally, and I've gotten to know them pretty well since then. And I like his work a lot that he's done since he was in the core. I think while he was in the core, he was doing work that I found a little bit arcane and perplexing. And it's not that he's become more accessible. It's just, I think, because I know him better, I can relate to the work better. Stephanie Jemison is best known for text and publishing based works. So she's kind of more of a writer than a visual artist, and what I know her best from since then is since the Corps is being part of Future Plan and Program, or actually directing Future Plan and Program, which is a book series about uh, artists and writers of color talking about whatever they want to write about. And I have some of her one of her books, Truth and Greatness. And she's actually gotten a lot of press in the art world since then. That's one of the things that's always interesting to me is to see who leaves the Corps and becomes a star, if any of them. And that's it's always a roll of the dice. In a way, what the Corps program and what residencies like these act as a postdoctoral theses. I mean, you can get a doctorate in studio art now, but it used to be the highest, or the terminal degree was a Master's of Fine Art. And once you've got your Master's of Fine Art, if you want to like get into a great teaching position or something, it's useful to go through these residencies, and that's I think a lot of what people. I mean, I think the intent is to have a place and uh, enough resources to do your artwork, which is hard if you're working part time as a waiter or something. So a residency provides that, and also usually provides a nice, quiet place to do it. But I think that it also provides a thing on your resume that helps you get a good teaching job, and which a lot of these people have. I think Kelly Sears is up in teaching in Colorado, and uh, I don't know about all the rest. Anyway, Gabriel Martinez is one of the artists, and I don't even really remember the art he did while he was in the Corps, but since been in the Corps, he lives here in Houston. He founded a alternative art space called Alabama Song that does exhibits, performances, lectures, collaborative community artwork, and much else. And it's great. And I've actually given a lecture there once. Um, and he had a great solo show at the Blaffer Gallery at the University of Houston. And Clarissa Tossin did some really fascinating work for the Corps exhibit, uh, having to do with how currency and the effectiveness of currency depends a lot on the belief of people. And it was sort of how a kind of supernatural belief in the value of currency was what made, say, a dollar worth a dollar, or in her case, a real worth a real. And it was done at the time when Enrique Cardoso, who was first the finance minister and then later the president of Brazil, uh, introduced his plan to put the brakes on hyperinflation by essentially convincing everyone that his new Brazilian currency, the real, was worth a dollar, and it was a total mental psych out by Cardoso, and it worked. For years prior to that, Brazil had been stumbling along in crisis after crisis with hyperinflation, and then suddenly it became this economic powerhouse. Uh, it's had its problems since, but let's give Enrique Cardoso credit and give Clarissa Tossin credit for recognizing that and finding a very clever way to express it in artwork. And her work has continued to involve uh, the relationship of Brazil and and the United States, and I will put some links for that speak to that. So those are some of the artists. I mean, I do want to say that Fatima Haider and Julianne Nagel did really interesting work, but I don't really know what they've done since. So I'm sure they've kept on doing what they're doing, but I don't really have an idea of what their career has been since they left the Corps program. And I read all the essays, and the one I want to mention here is Massimo Limo's piece, Holy Jive, because it's about a Malian artist slash novelist. So that's an interesting combination, and he makes me want to search out his novel and read it. Named Samson Kambalu, and he uses Limo uses a lot of French theory to discuss Kambalu, Julia Kristeva, and so on, which I don't really think adds much to his writing. What really works is him telling Kambalu's story, and his story is fascinating. So anyway, the core, they're still doing it. There's a new class now, but this is from an old class, and some of whom are still in the Houston area, and a lot of whom are really good. I recommend it. I recommend those artists, and as I said, I'll put a link to some of the artists in below this video. Thanks very much. Have a good day. Cheers.